My name is Thelma Grace Whitaker, and I'm 80 years old. I've lived most of my life in a small town nestled against the hills of northern Kentucky, a quiet place where secrets settle like dust and memories are kept under tighter wraps than family Bibles. Folks here still wave from porches, still gossip behind closed doors, and still believe that what happens in a home should stay there, even if it's a crime against the soul. But I'm done keeping quiet. The truth doesn't age like the rest of us. Doesn't wrinkle. Doesn't fade. It just waits, quiet, sharp, and ready. And today I'm going to tell mine. I live alone now, in a modest yellow house with green shutters and a porch swing that creaks when the wind hits just right. My son Jeremy calls once a week from Colorado. My daughter May sends postcards from wherever she's traveling to this month. And me. I tend my garden, feed the birds, and try not to remember the sound of the door clicking shut behind him. But it always comes back, the sound. That small, hollow click that meant I was trapped again. That my voice didn't matter. That no one would believe me. Not even Mama. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. I was 7 years old the first time it happened. And he was 12. My brother's name was Silas Eugene Whitaker, but everyone called him C. Blonde-haired, freckle-faced, with a crooked front tooth he refused to fix. People adored him. Teachers praised him. Mama said he was a gift from the Lord after 3 miscarriages. But behind closed doors, when the lights went out and the hush of the house settled over us like a wet blanket, C changed. He wasn't my protector. He wasn't the brother who played stickball with me or helped me catch fireflies in mason jars. He was something else entirely. Something cold. Something I didn't have a word for. Back then I thought it was my fault. That I had done something wrong. That I was being punished. He told me not to tell. Said no one would believe me. Said he'd hurt Mama if I did. I believed him. Because C was golden. And I was just the quiet little girl who still slept with a rag doll and wore hand-me-down shoes. So I stayed quiet. For 73 years. But last week, I got a letter in the mail that shattered everything I thought I had buried deep enough. It came from a woman named Claire Simmons, a name I didn't recognize. The envelope was pale blue, the handwriting spidery and slanted. Inside was a folded sheet of stationery with a single line that stopped my heart cold. I think your brother hurt me too. I read it once. Then a third time until the words blurred with my tears. I hadn't spoken C's name in over 3 decades. Not since his funeral. I didn't attend. I sent a card and a casserole. That was it. He'd moved to Florida long before Mama died. And we hadn't spoken since the mid-1980s. But now, out of nowhere, a stranger was reaching out with my truth in her hands. I stared out the window for a long time after that. The wind rustled the trees in my backyard, and the swing creaked just like it used to when I was little. For a moment I was 7 again, hearing that door click, clutching my breath like it was the only thing that could keep me alive. Except now I wasn't a child anymore. I had lived through cancer, widowhood, the loss of a child. I had known heartbreak and betrayal and the crushing silence of people who said they loved you but never saw you. And still, this old wound throbbed like it had never healed. I picked up the letter again, my hands trembling. Beneath the single sentence, Claire had left a phone number and one more line. You're not alone. I held that note like it was made of glass. My heart beat so hard I could feel it in my gums. Could it be? After all these years, had someone else survived what I did? I didn't know Claire Simmons, but I was going to call her, because I was done dying in pieces. It was time to speak, and maybe, just maybe, help another woman find her voice too. But first I had to find mine again. And that meant going back to where it all began. To that little blue house with the cracked linoleum floors and the attic that always smelled like old mothballs and rain. To the truth behind that door. To the girl I used to be. I picked up the phone and dialed Claire's number. Rang once. Then a voice answered. Not Claire's. A man's voice. One that said low and sharp, "You need to stop digging, Thelma. Some things are better left buried." Froze. The phone slipped slightly in my grip. My throat tightened. He knew my name. And suddenly I realized. I wasn't just chasing ghosts. I had stirred the living. Like, comment, and subscribe if you're ready to walk with Thelma through the secrets she's kept locked away for 60 years. What would you do if the person who hurt you was the one everyone else trusted? Let us know in the comments. My hand hovered over the phone for what felt like hours. You need to stop digging, Thelma. The voice had come and gone, like a shadow slipping through a crack. No name. No number on the caller ID. Just that low, gruff warning. And the knowledge that someone was watching. Listening. And afraid. I sat at the kitchen table. The letter from Claire Simmons laid out in front of me like evidence in a case nobody had ever dared to open. My mind went back to the scent of wood polish in Mama's hallway. The way the floorboards creaked beneath his feet at night. The soft click of the door. The silence that followed. Always silence. And now. Now that silence had finally broken. And it was making noise in places I never expected. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat in the living room wrapped in the same quilt my mother had sewn when I was a girl. The same one I'd clutched while waiting for the storm to pass. But the storm never passed. I just got better at pretending I didn't hear the thunder. But I hear it now. In the morning I made a decision. One I never thought I'd make. I drove myself, very slowly, to the town library. Not the new one with computers and coffee kiosks, but the old stone building tucked between the post office and the diner where I'd had my first job pouring coffee at 15. The librarian, Miss Rena, had known me for years. She took one look at my face and didn't ask a single question. "I need old newspaper archives," I told her. "From the 1950s. And anything on a family named Simmons." Her eyebrows rose just a bit. "Local." "Yes," I said. "Local. Very." She led me to the microfilm machine like I was on a pilgrimage. For the next 3 hours I scrolled through pages of faded headlines. Weddings, arrests, obituaries, announcements. And then I saw it. Local girl hospitalized. Family silent on details. 1954. July. The girl's name wasn't listed, but the article mentioned a private family dispute. Quieted by the sheriff. Handled discreetly. And the family name. Simmons. I leaned back in the creaky chair, heart pounding in my chest. There it was. Buried between summer fair announcements and Sunday church events. An entire life changed in a paragraph nobody ever remembered. Claire. She'd been just like me. And suddenly I wasn't just digging into my own past. I was holding hers too. I called the number again. No strange man this time. Just 3 rings, then a gentle voice answered. "This is Claire." Froze. My mouth went dry. "Claire. My name is Thelma Whitaker. I got your letter." Silence. And then a breath. Dark. Like someone trying not to cry. "I didn't know if you would," she said. "I almost didn't send it. But I needed to know I wasn't the only one." "You weren't," I whispered. "You're not." And just like that, 60 years of silence cracked open like an old attic trunk. Claire told me her story, softly, as if saying it too loud might make it too real. She had been 9. Her father was a pastor. Her mother wore pearls and taught etiquette classes. And Silas, my brother, had been a friend of the family. Trusted, smiling, helpful. He had stayed with them one summer while helping paint the church annex. Everyone said he was such a good boy. Polite, respectful. But at night, when no one was looking, he would come into Claire's room, just like he did mine. I told my mother once, Claire said. She slapped me so hard my tooth came loose. Said I was filthy for making up such filth. Said Silas was a godly boy, and I was the liar. I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles went white. Claire, I said, voice trembling. I believe you. I believe you too, she said. We sat in that shared silence. Different kind. Not the kind that hides things, but the kind that honors them. She told me she'd been keeping track of women. Women who'd known Silas. Babysitters. Camp counselors. Even a neighbor girl who'd gone quiet for an entire year after she helped their family with landscaping. I think there are more of us, Claire said. And I think someone doesn't want us to start talking. I thought of the man's voice on the phone. He knew my name, my number, my address, but he didn't know my strength. Because you can only bury a woman's voice for so long. Eventually it becomes thunder. Thanked Claire. Promised I'd call again soon. And then I went to the closet, pulled down the old hat box on the top shelf, and took out my childhood journal. The one Mama never knew I kept. The one I wrote in by candlelight beneath my bed. The one that held dates, drawings, descriptions. My truth, in faded ink and smudged pencil. I flipped through the pages. My stomach twisted. My hands shook. But I kept going. Because I finally had a reason to. Because the little girl I used to be was finally being heard. And because I knew exactly what I had to do next. The last page of the journal was loose. Corner torn off long ago. But on the back of it, scrawled in tiny writing, was a name I hadn't thought of in decades. Addie Mae Krause. I whispered it out loud, and the wind outside rose like it remembered too. She'd been my best friend. Until one night she stopped talking to me completely. I never knew why. But I was about to find out. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to follow Thelma's powerful journey. Share your thoughts below. Have you ever kept a truth locked away for too long? Your voice matters here. Her name hadn't passed my lips in nearly 70 years, yet the moment I whispered it, Addie Mae Krause, it felt like opening a locked drawer inside my chest. Something old stirred. Something I had tried to forget. Addie Mae had been the kind of friend you don't find twice in a lifetime. We were inseparable once. Two little girls with pigtails and scraped knees, trading secrets beneath the weeping willow at the edge of the schoolyard. She was louder than me, braver. She once climbed the roof of the barn just to prove she could. And I followed her everywhere like a shadow. Then one day she was gone. It was the summer of 1955. I was just 10. She stopped talking to me, stopped talking, period. Thelma, Mama had said back then, don't go pestering Addie Mae. She's had a hard time of it. Her folks sent her to live with her aunt upstate. That's all. But it wasn't all. I remembered the last time we were together. The way her eyes looked hollow, how she jumped at every sound, how her hands trembled as she tried to braid my hair. She had been afraid. And now, as I sat in my quiet living room with the ghost of her name echoing in my ears, I felt something in my bones. Addie Mae hadn't left town willingly. Something had happened. Something like what happened to me. And to Claire. I pulled out my late husband's old county directory. It was outdated. Most of the people listed were either long gone or moved. But something told me Addie Mae had never gone far. It took a few calls, a lot of awkward conversations, and more than one she passed last year, bless her heart, before I finally got a lead from the church secretary at St. Mark's. Addie May. Well, she's Addie Lewis now. Lives out near Hickory Hollow in the yellow house behind the Baptist chapel. Keeps to herself mostly. Sweet woman. Bakes for the Sunday sale every other month. I didn't wait. I threw on my coat, tucked my journal under my arm, and made the slow drive to Hickory Hollow. The road twisted through autumn-colored trees, the kind that seemed to hold their breath when something important was about to happen. The yellow house came into view. A white rocking chair sat empty on the porch. A pie cooled on the window ledge. It all looked so ordinary. But I knew better. I rang the bell, waited, and then the door creaked open. Addie May, or Addie Lewis now, stood before me in a faded cardigan, her gray hair braided neatly down her back. Her eyes met mine and widened. "Thelma," she said, barely above a whisper. I nodded. "It's me." She didn't say another word, just opened the screen door and stepped aside. The inside of her home smelled like cinnamon and cedar. There were framed quilts on the walls, a calendar from the feed store, and a cat curled on the radiator. She poured us 2 cups of tea. Sat across from me at a table worn down at the edges. "I never thought I'd see you again," she said. "Neither did I," I replied. "But I remembered something. Something from that summer." She looked away. Her knuckles clenched around her teacup. "You don't have to talk about it," I said. "But I need to ask. Was it Silas?" Her head shot up. Her lip trembled. "Yes," she said, voice cracking. "It was him." And just like that, the weight I'd carried alone for decades suddenly felt shared. She told me her story, halting, broken but familiar. Silas had come over to help her father with carpentry work. He'd offered to walk her home one night. That was when it began. The threats, the whispers in the dark, the bruises no one asked about. She'd tried to tell her aunt, but the answer was always the same. "Don't shame the family." She'd been sent away. Silas stayed. No one believed her. "I thought I was the only one," she said, tears rolling down her cheeks. "You weren't," I whispered. I showed her my journal. The entry from July 10, 1955, the day after Addie vanished from school. "She wasn't at the swings today," I had written. "I miss her. Mama said she had to leave. But I don't think that's the truth. I think she's hurting." Addie pressed her hand to the page. And in that moment the past rewrote itself, not in silence but in truth. We made a plan. Claire had mentioned a few other names. Addie remembered one more. We would meet. We would talk. And we would finally speak what no one had let us say before. But the past has a way of clawing back when it feels threatened. That night someone knocked on my door. I opened it, heart pounding. No one was there. Only a small box, wrapped in brown paper. Inside, cassette tape, labeled, "Don't go any further." And beneath it a photograph of me, taken from across the street. Yesterday. The shadows I thought were only in my memories had followed me into the present. And now I knew someone was watching. But I wasn't 10 years old anymore. And this time I wasn't alone. If you've made it this far, please like, comment, and subscribe to support this channel. Your voice matters, just like Thelma's. Share your thoughts below if this story hits subscribe button, and stay tuned. Addie May and I didn't sleep that night. After the tape was delivered, she came to stay at my house, just like we did during our sleepovers when we were 10. Except now we were old women with aching joints and battle-worn hearts. We sat at my kitchen table, The same one where I'd fed my grandchildren pancakes, now scattered with old photos, notepads, a digital recorder, and a pot of black coffee gone cold. "We need more than stories," Addie said, her voice stronger than it had been in years. "We need proof." He nodded. "That tape was a threat. Whoever sent it is scared." We played the cassette. It was grainy, the kind of recording you'd expect from a cheap recorder left in someone's coat pocket. First just wind and traffic. Then a voice, low, familiar, filled with venom. "If they start digging, I'll make sure they regret it." Silas. I'd recognize that voice anywhere. It was older now, like mine, but still carried that same sick twist of control I'd feared all my life. Eddie shuddered. "That's him. He's still trying to keep us quiet." My mind reeled. Silas was 87 now. A respected man in the county. He served on the local historical board. He gave speeches at church potlucks about moral values and family honor. A wolf in a cardigan. "I think it's time we knock on a few doors," I said. We started with Claire. She met us at the library where she volunteered. Her hair was tied back in a tight bun, and her eyes darted around the quiet reading room as she led us to the back stacks. She looked like a woman who hadn't trusted a soul in years. But when she saw Addie and me standing side by side, holding the recorder, she broke down. She whispered her story, about how Silas had come into her bedroom when she was just 12, about how her mother had slapped her when she told the truth, about how she never looked in a mirror the same way again. "I thought I imagined it," Claire said, voice trembling. "Thought I was just broken." "You weren't," I said, reaching for her hand. "You were silenced. We recorded everything. Not for the police, not yet. But for us. For the girls we used to be." The next few days were a blur of phone calls, quiet interviews, and trembling voices. We found 4 more women. 4 more who had been tucked in by Silas. Hugged too long. Whispered to in the dark. Each one thought they were alone. Each one cried when they realized they weren't. And each one had carried the weight of shame that never belonged to them in the first place. We gathered every statement, every memory, every timeline. We built a map of the past. A web of harm woven by a man too protected by silence, too shielded by his title. Then we reached out to someone unexpected. My granddaughter. Her name is Hannah, and she's 29. A firebrand lawyer out of Charlotte who made a name for herself representing elder abuse and historical injustice cases. When I told her everything, she didn't blink. "Grandma," she said, "I will help you burn this all down legally." She drafted affidavits, filed requests, set up meetings. And just like that, we weren't a circle of old women anymore. We were a legal storm. But storms stir fear. And 2 days before the hearing, someone broke into my house. They didn't steal anything. Just overturned furniture, flashed a few photos, left the recorder smashed on the floor. It was a message, but it came too late, because the truth was already in motion. And we weren't going to stop. The night before the hearing, Addie and I sat outside on my porch. We watched the moon rise, pale and full, casting silver light on the cracked boards under our feet. "You scared?" I asked her. "No," she said. "I was scared when I was 9. I'm angry now." Smiled. Me too. The next morning, as I stepped into the courthouse with my cane in one hand and a folder full of truth in the other, I saw him, Silas, still wearing that same smug smile. But this time I didn't flinch. Because I was not the little girl he hurt. I was the woman coming to end his silence. If this story gave you chills, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Your support helps stories like this get heard. Leave a comment below if you've ever carried a secret too heavy to hold alone. The courthouse was cold, not just in temperature but in spirit. The marble walls, the echo of footsteps, the sterile scent of too many lives laid bare under fluorescent lights. But I wasn't afraid. Not anymore. I walked in slowly, my cane tapping against the tile, Addie Mae beside me. Behind us were Claire, Lorraine, Judith, and Ruth, women who had once been little girls like me, all with stories locked behind tired eyes. And in front of us, Silas, 87 years old, neatly dressed in a navy blazer, slacks too long for his legs now, and that same old smirk he used to wear when no one was looking but me. He didn't recognize us at first. Not until he heard our names read aloud. Adeline Margaret Nichols, Claire Holloway, Judith Barnes, Ruth Fields, and Leona Esther Whitlock. My full name. He blinked, then smiled. Not because he was happy to see us, but because he believed we had no power. He had spent a lifetime building a wall of lies, dressed in good deeds and sealed in silence. But this time, silence wasn't on his side. The courtroom hushed as my granddaughter Hannah stood up. She was calm, precise. Her words didn't tremble, even when mine had during our late-night rehearsals. "We are not here for revenge," she said. "We are here for truth, for healing, for the record to show what was buried for too long." She spoke for us when we could not. Then, one by one, we took the stand. I was first. I told them what happened behind my bedroom door in 1953. The smell of my brother's shaving cream. The sound of his breath near my ear. The lies he whispered when I begged him to stop. I told them how no one listened. How Mama said I had a wild imagination. How Papa said, "Don't ruin your brother's future." I told them how I grew up with a voice buried so deep I forgot how to use it. How that night broke something in me that I spent the rest of my life trying to piece back together. Eddie cried when I finished. So did Claire. But the courtroom, silent. Then the judge leaned forward and asked the question that changed everything. "Mr. Whitlock, would you like to respond?" Silas stood up slowly. He walked to the front, the courtroom holding its breath. And for the first time in his life, he didn't smile. "I don't remember any of that," he said. "They're old. Confused. This is slander." That's when Hannah slid a manila folder across the table. Inside were statements, photos, notes from old school counselors. One from a camp nurse in 1958 who had filed a quiet complaint that never went anywhere. But it existed. Proof that the pattern was always there. The judge read silently. Then finally he looked up. "While this is not a criminal proceeding, I will be recommending this case to the district attorney's office for review. And I'll be issuing a protective order in favor of the petitioners." Silas's jaw clenched. His hand trembled. I watched him as the bailiff led him out of the courtroom. The man who once made me feel like a voiceless little girl now looked like a broken relic of the lie he'd built. And we were no longer his shadows. We were sunlight. That evening we gathered on my porch. No champagne. No music. Just the five of us women, each holding a cup of sweet tea and watching the sky turn lavender. "I thought I'd feel more triumphant," Addie said softly. "You do," I said. "You just don't recognize the feeling after all these years." Claire laughed. "Feels a bit like breathing after holding it for too long." Judith nodded. "Like I finally believe myself." We sat in the quiet for a while, letting the night settle. Then Hannah came out. "Grandma," she said, crouching beside me, They want to run the story in the paper. All of it. With your blessing. I looked at her, my granddaughter, fierce and kind and full of fire. And I smiled. Let them. The world should know what silence looks like. The article came out 2 weeks later. 5 women, 1 truth. A lifetime of silence finally broken. It made the rounds on social media. The small town that had once turned away from our whispers now looked at us with wide eyes. Some offered apologies. Some didn't know what to say. But it didn't matter. Because I didn't speak up for them. I spoke up for the little girl who cried in the dark. And the woman she became who finally said, "No more. Matey now." And I've never felt younger. If this story moved you, touched your heart, or gave you strength, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share it with someone who's carried a heavy silence. Let them know it's never too late to speak. What would you say to the younger you? Let us know in the comments below.